Okay, this is on discovery that I made, and I'm not sure where else this discovery takes place, but it's going to be on Orion's belt, Sirius, and the Great Sphinx, and the connection between heaven and earth. So, in ancient times, they mirrored the heavenly stars with locations of the earth. Now, in the Library of Ashurbanipal, where we have records of the ancient Sumerian texts, there's a story that I found of the builders building the Great Sphinx and to face the direction of the Sinai Peninsula. And this is where they designated this area as Dilmun. Dilmun became a sacred region to divide ancient Egypt from Mesopotamia. It was a place for the gods. And to designate this sacred region, they had the Great Sphinx facing east to point towards the peninsula. Now, what I found was that these regions were demarcated in the same way as Orion's belt. If you're familiar with Orion's belt, it's these three lines here. Orion is a hunter. It's where we get the name Orion. And Sirius on the left, it faces the belt. Now, when the great builders were building the four regions of the earth, Mesopotamia, Egypt, Indus Valley, and Dilmun in the Sinai Peninsula, they had the Great Sphinx facing the belt of Orion, or the Great Sphinx was facing the Sinai Peninsula. We can see here is the Great Sphinx. And it faces directly the center here, where in the text of Ashurbanipal, it says it was surrounded by white mountains, which we have these white mountains here in the middle of the Sinai. To mirror this, you have Jerusalem, which they built a major landing platform. And if you were to dig underneath, major underground passageways. And Baalbek, Lebanon, another major landing platform. And these are mirrored in the exact same way as the belt of Orion, with Sirius facing the belt, Sirius facing the peninsula, Jerusalem, and Baalbek. And the pyramids, they also mirror this with the three pyramids in Egypt also mirroring Orion's belt. It's fascinating to me, that connection of heaven and earth. Now, the Great Sphinx was made in the image of Ningishida. Ningishida was the son of Enki, and in Egypt he was called Tahat, Thoth. In Greek times he was known as Hermes Trismegistus, or Hermes the Thrice Great. And he was known as the builder and architect of the Great Pyramids, which they called the Eker, the lofty house. Later, in ancient Egyptian times and pharaonic times, Ra, who was the firstborn of Enki, the one who had dominion over Egypt and had the emblem of the serpent, he takes over Egypt, institutes the solar calendar, and replaces Ningishida's face with the face of his firstborn son Osiris. And we can trace the root words Osiris, Sirius. And he says the Sphinx should be it should be Osiris. And if you don't know the story of Osiris, he was murdered by his brother Set, thrown into the river Nile, and then from his seed was a son was born and impregnated the wife Isis, who gave rise to Horus, descending from the wanderers, the Ajiji, where we get the name the Jinn, the guardians. And this was the first brotherhood who powered mankind to use weapons, powered mankind and gave them power of the promise that mankind was to inherit the earth. So the original Sphinx was made in the image of Ningishida, so Thoth, the builder. But as the story of Osiris goes, it was later made in his image when Egypt was under the pharaonic rule of Ra, who later became known as Amun, the unseen. So we can see here's the Great Sphinx. Here is the Sinai Peninsula, which became Dilmun to separate Egypt from Mesopotamia, and then the three major centers of Dilmun, Jerusalem, which became the sacred priesthood, where the Melchizedek priesthood originates from, and you have Baalbek, Lebanon, with a huge landing platform. These three mirror the constellation of Orion's belt, with Sirius representing the Great Sphinx, and was later attributed to Osiris.